This week's problem child is going to be Applejack because it's apple bucking season and she's going to be a little stubborn mule. No offense. Well, Big Mac has a nebulous injury that he got somehow, and it's harvest season, aka apple bucking season. And so, what does Applejack do? She says she's going to do all of the work, and Big Mac, who talks more than most other episodes, other than like Sisterhood Social and the one where he tries to get laid, he's telling her she's being real dumb and she probably shouldn't be trying to do that. Here we have an extremely clunky exchange of dialogue where Applejack is sort of revealing what she thinks of herself and what their relationship is, being like, I'm your sister. I'm the loyal, dependable, reliable Applejack. And that's sort of how she sees herself and how other people see her, and we're going to see her try to defend that entire perception she has throughout the episode and fail miserably. And now Applejack, looking across the fields, she realizes just what it is she's trying to do. All of it, by herself. She immediately regrets it, and yet the stubbornness is going to keep her from actually giving in. Bonbon number 9. Also, there's a stampede of cows just happening. Lyra number 8. Here we see Mayor trying to do her job again, at least until she becomes obsolete. Having felt the stampede coming, Applejack jumps into action, and we get the first appearance of Winona, best girl, best dog. Applejack manages to steer the herd away and stop them, and that's when we learn that cows actually have the same level of intelligence as ponies, so this makes it even more confusing, the fact that they were just running nonstop into a populated city. And we learn that the reason for that is because they thought they saw a snake. That's it. Also, Applejack is familiar with these specific cows. And now we get Mayor being a character finally, which is not going to last long, but hey, at least we got it. She is very interested in awarding Applejack with a trophy because of her heroism. Nice character beat before she becomes horribly irrelevant. There's Derpy 6, and this is also sort of why Ponyville is called the friendliest place in Equestria later, is they're literally holding a town-wide celebration in honoring of Applejack's deed here. They don't really do this a lot in the later seasons because the mayor becomes irrelevant, but it's nice to see a big community coming together. Makes the story feel more alive, you know? This is a really weird scene because Twilight is giving a speech. Why is Twilight here with a pre-written speech? Why did the other main 6 come in? Like, what? Why are they doing this before the mayor does it? They should be doing this after the mayor does her speech, if anything. Because Twilight doesn't become like the town coordinator until like winter wrap-up. And she doesn't have any authority in the city either at the moment. Here's what I call the start of the Rainbow Dash meme face era, and it's going to last for pretty much the entire series. For some reason, the writers wanted to give her as many meme faces as possible. They just sort of leaned into it. Also here, Rainbow Dash is sort of gassing up Applejack, which is really nice to see after the last episode where they were butting heads a lot, which shows they have a more forgive and forget attitude. Obviously, the timeline is murky, so we don't know how many days or weeks later this is. I'm going to assume it's been a few days at least, but it's nice to see. Here, Pinkie Pie also interrupts to explain how Applejack is going to help Pinkie at the bakery, and explains how Applejack is actually a really good baker. This also shows that Applejack has really poor planning skills, and she is a bit of a people pleaser, similar to Twilight is, like we saw before, and she struggles to say no and has this thing where she wants to keep her reputation of being helpful up, but it just leads to her overworking herself, as we're going to see. And here we have Applejack also helping Fluttershy with her bunny project. Also, this is something weird. Pre-character development Fluttershy is making a very public speech in front of the whole town. Is she doing it because the bunnies are involved? It's probably for the bunnies. Fluttershy is also gassing up AJ's herding skills, as we already saw though. So there's no real need, but Fluttershy just wants to be nice. And here we have Mayor actually trying to do her job. Twilight likes lists and flashcards and stuff, but she doesn't have any real reason to do any of it this time. Like it's mainly for a gag, and maybe she wants to say some nice things about Applejack, but it's literally the mayor's job to do all of this, so I don't know why she's doing it, other than the creators are just sowing the seeds for the mayor to be just phased out. The Prized Pony of Ponyville Award for trustworthiness, reliability, and integrity. This is just further solidifying AJ's reputation that she wants to keep. Not that she doesn't want to or like helping other people, ponies, she's just not doing it in a very healthy way. As I said before, the timeline is a little murky, but based on the series of events and how they're playing out, I'm going to assume that a lot of this happens over the course of roughly 3 to 4 days. It could be shorter than that based on how much is happening in the same day, but that's my main go-to guess, because AJ is showing severe signs of sleep deprivation right now. She's already being delirious, and it's only going to get worse from here. Pinkie is again displaying like a complete lack of empathy, not in the sense that she couldn't feel for other people, but in the sense that she just doesn't even recognize it. She doesn't notice that other people's feelings have gone way too far until they've gone way too far. Everyone else is displaying the proper amount of concern to AJ's health. Some more Twilight teleport continuity. In a low-stress environment, when she can entirely focus on what she's doing and only has to travel a short distance, she can teleport without any real side effects. The real question is, why did she decide to teleport here? Twilight just randomly deciding to teleport again. That's strange. She also learns about apple bucking season, which is literally just harvest season, but that's what the apples call it. But they also have to literally buck the apples off the tree to fall. I'm also gonna headcanon it that apples fall perfectly due to Earth Pony magic, and you can't stop me. Twilight's apparently in a fucking teleporting mood, because she just keeps doing it and won't stop. Even Applejack starts to get annoyed after this point. My idea is that she probably wants to practice teleporting more, given the accidental one she did in the last episode that ended up hurting Spike, which shows that she really cares about him even after the first episode where she let him get abused, because now she just doesn't want that to happen anymore. She's learning. Twilight even brings up here that if Applejack needs help, what about the other members of the Apple family that we saw in episodes 1 and 2? Which is where we learned that that was just the Apple family reunion. Which also means that Twilight's anniversary for her arrival in Ponyville is on the same day as the family reunion. We also learned that the Apple family is all over Equestria, which we kind of assumed at this point. This is like Twilight's 5th fucking teleport. I actually skipped one because I thought she was going to be done with it. At this point, Twilight's asking if Applejack wants some help, citing the same rationale that Big Mac did, where she's just one pony and this isn't a one pony job. Applejack continues to be a prideful, stubborn mule and gets offended as if she couldn't handle something. This is like my 5th watch through of the show, and I'd never noticed how the necks and bodies get so long in this first season. If this trend continues later on and not for like an on-purpose sort of way, I'm going to be terrified. Also, Applejack tends to take these things as sort of an insult and a challenge with herself, which is just sort of making her redouble her attitude that she's had the entire episode. So when Rainbow Dash said she wanted help from Applejack, what she wanted was for someone to just land on this giant catapult and fling her in the sky so she can improvise a bunch of tricks. Even though she said she wanted help with a specific trick, it's more freeform than that. Rainbow does tend to prefer improvisation over planning though, so this is in character for her. Once again, reinforcing Earth ponies and their crazy fucking strength, Applejack just sort of launches Rainbow into the stratosphere. 4 episodes in, and Rainbow has crashed either into or directly next to Twilight in 3 of them. Also, Rainbow encourages Twilight to help Applejack, likely because she is too wounded to help her herself at this point. Applejack finally kind of admits that she wasn't feeling like herself. She also specifies this morning, so it's likely happening maybe 1 to 2 things a day, so it's likely been 2 to 3 days that she's been working nonstop, and also going to help everyone else. And Applejack triples down on her fucking bullshit, so, you know, we're over halfway through the episode, and we're actually only barely halfway over through the episode, and yet we're just repeating the same thing over and over again. I believe this is Mr. and Mrs. Cake's first appearance, and it's revealed that Pinkie works for them. She doesn't just own Sugar Cube Corner, she just sort of lives there and rents for them, but also lives there. Maybe she doesn't even need to rent because she works there? I don't know. So here Applejack is finally helping Pinkie with her thing, which is the baking, and despite the fact that she's putting in horribly incorrect ingredients, Pinkie doesn't even seem to recognize it or notice. And one thing about Pinkie is when it comes to like planning parties and people's party interests, she is extremely observant, but everything outside of that she apparently appears to be very muted towards and doesn't pay a lot of attention to it. I wonder if there's some condition where you only really fixate on one specific interest and kind of push out everything else. Oh well. And here's Lyra 9, Bonbon 10, and Derpy 7. So apparently Twilight just likes getting involved in volunteer work, which kind of makes sense because she's supposed to be learning about friendship and might as well go out and help as many people as possible. But what the heck is she going to do at a sick ward? I don't think she's properly medically trained, even though she probably has read a fuck a load of things on it. She also gets to hear about how Applejack continues to fuck everything up and is going to go yell at her for like the 5th time. And they're just repeating the same thing over and over again here, where Twilight's like, hey, you need help, and Applejack's like, hey, no I don't. And then this goes on for about 30 seconds. Let's talk about Applejack in this episode, I guess. So Applejack in this episode, she starts off completely fine, just being overly competitive and confident, but this is where I would want to criticize her for having an insanely rude attitude towards Twilight, when she literally just said, hey, I just came from urgent care. But this is extreme sleep deprivation, which can cause irritability, and given that Applejack's been going for at least 4 days, if not more, tells us that she's roughly on the verge of collapse. I got to 4 by assuming that she helps everyone once a day and that the ceremony was on its own day. It could all be happening faster, but even assuming 2 days or 2 helps per day, that's 2 days of no sleep. So I can understand why she's currently at where she is. I think throughout the episode they literally show her symptoms of sleep deprivation in order of how they appear. So I think she starts with just extreme tiredness, into delirium, into double vision, into difficulty hearing, and now irritability. I don't know if that's the actual order. I could look it up, but I'm lazy. Just take either my word for it or just assume that, hey, they're going through all the symptoms of it. Doesn't have to be in order. And here we have the random mule who appears when someone makes a mule joke, so that way he can say he's not offended by it. It's another running joke that doesn't really last very long, as far as I know anyway. And this is where Applejack's irritability hits its peak. When she starts being irritated with Fluttershy of all people, it's a massive red flag for literally all of her friends. At least it should be. Thankfully, the episode is almost over, so, you know, they'll actually realize this now. And by they, I mean not just Twilight. And even Applejack will realize it once Twilight is like, yo, what the fuck? And here we have a second stampede, but this time it's bunnies after Applejack just, you know, traumatizes them. It reuses a lot of animation, so I'm not going to count the Lyra and Bonbon that appear here because that's boring. I'm pretty sure this is a reference to something, but I can't actually remember what, so let me know what it is. This here is a running gag with the flower ponies of Ponyville. I'm not going to bother learning their names. I don't think they're that important or as interesting of background characters as some of the other ones. So their running gag is literally just something mildly inconvenient happens to their flowers and they have full-on dramatic breakdowns. It's honestly kind of funny, but it happens a lot. And now that the bunnies have sort of micro-trashed Ponyville a little bit, mildly inconvenienced the town, Twilight has finally activated Big Sister mode and has decided that Applejack is going to get fucking help whether she likes it or not. Twilight finally approaches Applejack and is like, hey, you realize what you've done throughout all of these past few days to the town? You poisoned our water supply, burned our crops, and delivered a plague onto our houses. And Applejack is like, I did? And she's like, well, no, but you did basically similar things. And Applejack's like, well, who cares? Because guess what? I was right. I finished. I'm done. I'm the best. It's likely due to the exhaustion, but the complete lack of empathy here is not a good look for her, especially given the previous episodes. And now Big Mac appears to be like, hey, Applejack, you didn't succeed. You did one field of like our 4 or 5. And that's when Applejack has just a breakdown and collapses to the ground in exhaustion, at which point Twilight wakes up and is like, you done now? And now Applejack finally accepts help, not because she was causing problems for anyone, but because she was too tired and didn't want to suffer anymore. And so in Twilight's letter, she mentions how Applejack is a wonderful and reliable friend, but has trouble accepting help sometimes because she doesn't want to be a burden to anyone, and that she needs to learn that her friends are there to help her, and that she shouldn't feel like she's taking advantage of them when she genuinely needs the help. This is just something that's going to come up probably in the future, how unicorn magic sort of just does everything that the Earth and Pegasi magic can do, but better. And it shows why unicorns sometimes have a superiority complex, which is mostly seen in the Nobility and Canterlot, but is also seen in a couple of other places. It's just something to keep an eye out for. And we finally close out with Applejack admitting she was a blowhard, piece of shit, stubborn as a mule, jerk, who caused a lot of problems, and apologizing for it as she should. Hopefully she doesn't do any more of this type of thing in the future, and I don't think she does. I might be wrong. I'll complain about it later if it does come up. Alright, not that you're probably going to notice, but this video is definitely going to be a lot shorter than the other ones, which is entirely because this episode kind of sucks. So what I'm going to do at the end of each episode now is just review the episode, and since I didn't do it for the first 2 episodes, I'm going to do that here as part of this one. So Friendship is Magic Part 1 and 2 are a pretty solid opener. They do struggle from kid show syndrome, which is making things too dumbed down, which is necessary, I know, but you don't always have to. Well, regardless, they do a pretty good job of establishing the characters and giving us an idea of what they're going to be like. And then we move into Ticketmaster, where they immediately backpedal on all of that because it's no longer a world-ending scenario, which means the characters are no longer operating at their peak character. They're now operating on their daily character, which is a lot shittier, which gives them room to grow, so it's not the worst thing. My problem with Ticketmaster and even this episode, Applebuck season, is the severe lack of empathy in most of the characters. Twilight's the only one who really has it, but she's also the victim in Ticketmaster, so it doesn't really work in that situation. And then for Applebucking season, this episode just repeats itself on ad infinitum. Like, it just keeps doing the same thing over and over again for 20 minutes. It's kind of not good. It's maybe the worst episode in this season. I don't know. We'll see if it gets trumped.